Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping ourselves in for, well, a journey into the darkest, grittiest corners of the wizarding world.
Definitely.
Our focus today, and this was requested by so many of you, is pretty comprehensive. We are going to identify every single canonical character who is confirmed to have taken another being's life.
And this isn't just, a list of the usual suspects like Death Eaters.
Not at all.
This is a full accounting. We're talking every confirmed killer across the entire lore. And when we say entire lore, we really mean it. It's vast.
So we're going way beyond the main 7 books here.
Oh, absolutely. We've meticulously pulled confirmed kills from the extended historical lore, the Fantastic Beasts films, and this is a big one, the Hogwarts Legacy video game, which is now officially considered canonical.
Right. And this deep dive is all about extracting those little nuggets of surprising knowledge, the stuff you find buried in a footnote or maybe a side quest. So our mission today is really to give you the ultimate shortcut to being, well, the most well-informed person on this pretty macabre topic. We're separating the known mass murderers from some shocking heroes.
And the accidental tragedies from just, deliberate malice.
The ground rules for this, though, they have to be rigorous.
Yeah, they have to be.
Yeah.
We are only looking for characters with concrete evidence of a kill. It has to be recorded in canon. We can't just speculate.
Right. No generic dark wizard.
No, we need names, we need victims, and we need the context that establishes, definitive culpability.
And what stands out immediately, just looking at this list, is the sheer volume and the emotional complexity of it all.
It really does. I mean, the list spans victims from muggle sailors and house elves to grandfathers, and as we'll get into, even a common fox.
It absolutely challenges that comfortable, simplistic idea of a clear line between good and...
And what's so fascinating here is how often the deepest, darkest history of the wizarding world just bleeds directly into the present conflict. And how deeply personal so many of these deaths actually were. You find they weren't just casualties of war.
So they were acts of passion.
Passion, revenge, or sometimes just desperate duty. I think we should start with the most tragic entries on this list.
The murders rooted in accident.
Exactly. Accident, unresolved trauma, and some very complex, sometimes even noble justifications.
Okay, let's do it. The history of the Dumbledore family seems like the perfect, if devastating, place to start. It's just the most famous example of accidental killings born profound trauma.
It really is. We have to begin with the tragic chain of events around Ariana.
Right.
The sources give this just heartbreaking clarity on her case. As a child, she was brutally attacked by 3 Muggle.
They saw her practicing magic and were scared by it.
Exactly. And that attack wasn't just physical. It completely shattered her emotionally and psychologically. It left her permanently traumatized.
And the consequence of that trauma was that she developed an obscura.
Right, that uncontrollable, violent magical force that's caused by suppressing powerful magic.
So she basically became a ticking magical time bomb that she had absolutely no...
And the very first victim of this uncontrolled force was her own mother, Kendra Dumbledore.
Oh, that's...
Kendra was killed in what the sources call a terrible accident when Ariana, just unable to manage this immense power inside her, simply lost control. It wasn't a curse.
Oh.
It was a devastating, accidental, magical discharge that killed her mother.
It's so critical that we pause on that for a second. This wasn't malice. It wasn't intentional at all.
Not in the slightest.
It was the direct, heartbreaking consequence of this deep, unresolved, and it shaped Albus Dumbledore's entire approach to power and secrets the rest of his life.
I'd argue it shaped him far more than his famous duel with Grindelwald ever did.
I think you're right. Which, of course, brings us to Ariana's own death. An event that's still the greatest unsolved mystery in the Dumbledore.
The question of who actually killed her.
Exactly.
The event itself was this brief but completely catastrophic 3-way duel. It involved her 2 brothers, Aberforth and Albus.
And the man Albus loved, Gellert Grindelwald.
And during the chaos, spells are just flying back and forth. One of them rebounded and struck Ariana, and it took her life.
And the sources really emphasize that the tragedy wasn't just her death, it was the ambiguity, the eternal not knowing.
Exactly. Neither Albus nor Aberforth ever knew for sure whose wand cast the fatal spell.
Wow.
And that possibility that either brother could have killed their little sister accidentally in the heat of a foolish fight, that became a lifetime burden. It fractured their family and just defined their grief forever.
That kind of accidental, deeply personal tragedy feels miles away from the accidental killings that happen in the chaos battle.
They're different moral categories entirely. Let's move to some examples of Death Eater friendly fire. We have 2 cases where the killer's intent wasn't aimed at the final victim, but the result was just as deadly.
Okay, who's first?
First, we have a Death Eater named Ralph, who accidentally killed a fellow Death Eater named Gibbon.
And this happened during the Battle of the Astronomy Tower, right after Dumbledore's death.
That's the one. Ralph was aiming this very powerful, likely destructive spell at Remus Lupin.
A key member of the Order.
Right. But his shot was just completely off target. It struck his own ally instead. It really shows a massive level of battlefield incompetence and chaos within the Dark Lord's ranks.
A massive spell going wide and killing your own ally. I mean, that's a level of battlefield negligence I hadn't really considered. It sort of changes how you view the competence of some of these dark wizards.
It does. And then there's Augustus Rookwood, another Death Eater, whose action resulted in one of the most heartbreaking collateral murders of the entire Second Wizarding War.
Fred Weasley.
During the final battle of Hogwarts, Rookwood cast a spell that blew up a wall, and that collapsing structure killed Fred.
Fred's death is it's one of the iconic tragedies, and Rookwood wasn't even targeting him.
No, he wasn't. But the sources are clear that his spell caused the physical deadly force. And we should point out that even though the act was collateral, the sources are also clear that Rookwood was likely glad for the result.
That's an important distinction. A kill doesn't require a successful Avada Kedavra.
Not at all. Collateral murder caused by an offensive action during a battle still firmly plants the killer on this list.
So now we can transition into the most complex cases, right? The gray areas where duty, defense, or revenge just cloud the moral lens.
Yes, where intent is almost impossible to judge purely. And the classic example is Severus Snape. The records confirm only one killing on his record.
The murder of Albus Dumbledore.
Right. And this is maybe the most heavily nuanced killing in the entire canon.
For sure. Dumbledore was already dying from Marvellous Gaunt's cursed ring. This wasn't saving an otherwise healthy...
Not at all. And he explicitly ordered Snape to do it. It was a form of strategic mercy kill.
Exact. Dumbledore's strategic calculation was brilliant and, well, brutal. It served two vital purposes. First, it spared Draco Malfoy's soul.
Right, preventing him from becoming a killer and creating a Horcrux.
And second, and this was crucial for the war effort, it maintained Snape's impeccable cover as a spy for the Order of the Phoenix. It cemented his position right at Voldemort's side.
But wait, even if it was ordered and strategic, doesn't the act of performing Avada Kedavra corrupt the soul? Does the context of duty and mercy really negate the black magic involved?
That's the ultimate paradox the sources present us with, isn't it?
It is. Snape chose corruption for the sake of ultimate good. The sources don't give us an easy moral answer, just the fact that Snape performed the definitive fatal act and he accepted the soul damage it implied for the greater good.
It's murder performed as an act of profound loyalty.
Which stands in stark contrast to the killing attributed to Alastor Mad-Eye Moody.
Right. He was known as maybe the greatest Auror of his generation, someone who always aimed to capture deaths, not kill them.
It was a reflection of his respect for magical law, but the sources do confirm he was forced to resort to killing the Death Eater, Evan Rosier.
And this wasn't premeditated.
No, it was pure self-preservation in a brutal knockdown fight.
The sources highlight this as the very battle where Moody took that severe damage, getting the permanent signature scarring across his face.
Exactly. He was in so much peril that he had to take Rosier's life just to ensure his own survival and prevent his capture or death. It speaks to the extreme conditions of the First Wizarding War.
Even the most principled lawman had to violate his own code just to survive.
Exactly. Against a truly dangerous enemy like Rosier.
And finally, a case that just embodies the dilemma of primal justice versus societal law. Percival Dumbledore, Albus's father.
Percival killed 3 Muggles, and the context is absolutely everything. These were the Muggles who had brutally attacked his 6-year-old daughter, Ariana.
The ones who caused her lifelong, incurable trauma. One could argue this was justified revenge, protecting his child's dignity and retaliating for the irreparable damage that he was driven by a parent's protective rape.
But the law didn't see it as justification. The ministry saw only 3 confirmed murders of Muggles, and the sources confirmed these murders resulted in Percival being sentenced to life in Azkaban.
So the motivation was deeply protective, but the action was undeniably fatal and criminal.
Right. It places him firmly on this canonical list. The source frames it as a classic dilemma. Ministry justice versus a parent's primal protective right.
That sets the stage perfect. We've seen accident, duty, tragic revenge. Now let's shift gears entirely from the complexity of human intent to the absolute danger of magical creatures, ancient dark arts, and the forgotten history of the wizard.
Yes. When we're cataloging canonical killers, we have to recognize that not all of them are driven by a wand. Some are driven by biology or by a curse or ancient command.
We have to start with the most infamous creature to live under Hogwarts, the basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets.
That basilisk had an astonishing tenure. I mean, it lived in the chamber for over 1,000 years, waiting for Slytherin's heir to unleash it.
1,000 years.
And despite all that time and its immense power, the sources confirm it only claimed one human victim with its deadly stare.
Myrtle Warren, who became Moaning Myrtle.
Exactly. While Tom Riddle ordered the chamber opened, The physical act of murder was committed by the creature itself.
Next up, we have Voldemort's most loyal companion and Horcrux, Nagini. Her confirmed human kill is one of the most pivotal and, frankly, gut-wrenching moments.
The murder of Severus Snape.
Right.
Nagini attacked and killed Snape on Voldemort's direct orders during the Battle of Hogwarts. He believed Snape was the master of the Elder Wand.
And what makes Nagini so fascinating, as the deep lore highlights, is the fantastic connection.
She wasn't always a snake. The lore suggests Nagini started as an innocent woman cursed with the Maledictus blood curse,
which ultimately transformed her into the vicious killing snake permanently.
Yeah. Her entire existence is this tragic, forced transition from human victim to vicious killer.
That adds such a profound layer of tragedy to every single act of violence commits, just knowing the human soul that was trapped inside.
It does. And away from the magical politics of wizards, we find these raw, brutal power struggles in the giant community.
Golgamath,
who sought the throne as chief. Hagrid and Madame Maxime actually witnessed him take the
by defeating and killing his rival giant, Carcass.
Yes, and the detail in the sources is visceral and unforgettable. Golgamath achieved this power by literally ripping Carcass's head off.
Wow.
It's a chilling reminder that beneath the magic, the giant world is purely primal, a horrifying parallel to history's most brutal dictatorships, where a power transfer means unambiguous physical annihilation.
That brutality sets the perfect tone for us to move into the deep lore, the killers that many casual fans might not even realize are foundational to the dark history of the wizarding world.
Okay, let's talk Abitria. He's a dark wizard whose presence predates organized magical government. He dates back to the very foundation of the remote island that would eventually become Azkaban.
And he didn't just live there in isolation, did he?
No. He lived on that island, accompanied by the dark creatures that later evolved into the Dementors.
And his victim,
Muggle Sailor. He lured them to his isolated, unplottable island and then murdered them. He wasn't a wizarding war criminal. He was a pure, isolated serial killer, setting the horrific groundwork for the entire prison.
Then we have a truly specific and disturbing entry, Yardley Platt.
Platt is a villain confirmed in deeper lore, first introduced on J.K. Rowling's website. His original description is canon, and his distinction is remarkably specific. He is known as a goblin serial killer.
A goblin serial killer? That specificity is unnerving.
It is. The sources detailing his existence reveal the extent of targeted violence and hatred against non-human magical beings long before the Goblin Rebellion. His crimes, though maybe obscure, illustrate a historical animosity that often turned lethally violent.
Now, we absolutely must talk about the dark arts that require murder as their very foundation. Herpo the Foul.
Herpo the Foul is the true, original dark wizard. I'd say he's the foundational architect of evil. His most infamous legacy is inventing and creating the first known Horcrux.
And since we know that creating a Horcrux requires committing murder to violently split the soul,
Herpo the Foul is definitively a confirmed murderer.
By the time we meet Voldemort, we understand the Horcrux ritual, but Herpo established the original. He defined the ultimate magical atrocity.
And as a terrifying historical footnote, he's also credited with breeding the very first bastard.
The same type of one that killed Myrtle Warren.
He is literally responsible for defining two of the most destructive forces in dark magical history.
We also have the Warlock of the Wicked Heart. This is less history and more ancient dark myth.
Precisely. It's a classic piece of dark lore, a powerful warlock who removed his heart and kept it locked away, believing he didn't need love or vulnerability.
A dark fairy tale illustrating a moral lesson.
It is. When a nice maiden came into his life and asked him to replace his heart, he agreed. But the sources explained that the heart had been outside his body for so long, so isolated from humanity, that it had become irreversibly wicked.
So when he put it back,
that dark, twisted heart drove him immediately to murder the very maiden who had convinced him to seek redemption. It shows that dark magic can be so physically and psychologically transformative that it destroys the capacity for good.
That leads us to the most infamously bloody object history. The Elder. Its trail of murder spans centuries, fueling the very definition of magical power.
Yeah, while centuries of implied death define the wand, the sources give us specific names tied directly to that violence. Before we even get to the wand possessors, there's the historical murder that created one of Hogwarts' most sorrowful ghosts.
The Bloody Baron, Slytherin's ghost.
Right. He murdered Helena Ravenclaw, the daughter of the founder, Rowena Ravenclaw.
He was sent to retrieve her after she fled with her mother's diet.
And when Helena refused to return with him, the Baron murdered her in a fit of rage and desperation. And the sources had a powerful layer of complexity here.
The guilt.
Consumed by overwhelming guilt and remorse, he immediately killed himself. The violence of that single impulsive act defined his entire eternity.
So now, back to the Elder Wand, then known as the Death Stick.
Right. The sources give us a short, named list of those who killed specifically for its possession, demonstrating that power requires this lethal commit. We have Eggert the Egregious.
Who killed Emmer the Evil to get the death.
Then years later, Loxias, motivated by the same desire, killed another possessor named Barnabas Dale.
And the final one named on this specific trail is Hereward, whose act demonstrates the ultra-trail.
Hereward is particularly chilling because he murdered his own father, Godelot, to get...
And what makes it so dark is the context. Godelot wanted the wand for good reasons.
Yes, to study its secrets and learn from its power, not necessarily to dominate. But Hereward was so consumed by the lust for power that he captured his own father, locked him in a cellar, and let him perish just to steal the wand.
Wow. It shows how the simple desire for the wand corrupted even the deepest family bonds.
Absolutely. And this ancient, bloody history of murder for power is completely foundational to the core themes of the main book. And that blood trail continues right through the prequel era.
Which brings us to Grindelwald's rise.
Yeah, the Fantastic Beasts films dramatically expand the list of canonical killers. They document specific acts of terrorism, strategic assassinations, and collateral strikes across Europe during Grindelwald's global war for magical supremacy.
And we have to start with the most tragic product of trauma in that era, Credence Barebone, or Aurelius Dumbledore.
Credence committed several murders, driven entirely by pain, profound abuse, and the desire for revenge against those who had harmed him. His first high-profile victim was Senator Henry Shaw Jr.
A public act of destruction showing the sheer power of Gyrus to the Muggle.
Then came the personal revenge, the killing of his abusive adopted mother, Marilou Barebone, who had subjected him to years of cruelty and psychological torment.
And in the chaotic destruction of the church that followed, he also killed his adopter, Chastity Barebone.
Yeah, the Obscurus is an indiscriminate force of massive destruction, but the trauma that fueled it was highly specific and personal. He's a killer by tragedy, not by design.
Okay, now we look at the specific agents of Grindelwald, his inner circle, and their targeted act. First, Gunnar Grim.
Grimson was initially hired to kill Credence, but he failed. Instead, he killed the innocent half-house, elf-half-goblin Irma Duggard.
And this murder, though maybe minor to Grindelwald's overall agenda, was key.
It was, because it set Credence off on a path of further destruction, driving him further toward darkness and desperation.
Then there's Caro. This is a particularly chilling kill.
Yes, Caro was one of Grindelwald's most loyal acolytes. On his direct orders, she killed a Muggle babe.
Awful.
And the sources note a critical psychological detail here.
Well,
she couldn't even watch as she did it. It's described as a cowardly act.
Which suggests that even the most indoctrinated followers still struggle with performing these calculated acts of pure evil against the innocent.
Even if they obey, it was an act of calculated terror, killing an innocent baby to demonstrate sheer power and malice.
Next is Vinda Rosier, another loyal member of Grindelwald's inner circle. Her confirmed kill involved a creature.
Right, a Chillin, which she killed with a spell. It just demonstrates the circle's willingness to destroy any life, human or magical, that stands in the way of their perceived destiny.
And finally, a kill that, according to the sources, pretty much served as the final spark that ignited the all-out global war.
Cassel.
Cassel and Orr.
Yeah, a supposed representative of magical law and order who killed a red-haired girl while on duty during one of Grindelwald's massive rallies in Paris.
Why is this one specific death so crucial?
Because Grindelwald's entire ideology rested on showing that the established order, the International Confederation of Wizards, was corrupt and incompetent, and Orr killing an innocent girl during a public protest was a massive propaganda victory.
It provided Grindelwald with undeniable evidence that the supposed protectors were the true aggressors.
And dramatically accelerated the global conflict into open warfare. The Fantastic Beasts era doesn't just add names, it adds political context, showing how even a single murder can be weaponized.
And this pattern of specific, detailed crimes continues right into our next section, focused entirely on the crimes documented in the Hogwarts Legacy game lore.
And it is vital to reaffirm that Hogwarts Legacy is considered fully canonical. It provides detailed, specific lore on new antagonists and the highly specific, often brutal crimes they commit.
Primarily focused on the turbulent goblin rebellions of the 18th.
Right. Let's start with Theophilus Arlo, one of the game's antagonists. His crimes were highly detailed and motivated by, well, typical criminal behavior.
Not just ideological purity.
No. Harlow murdered a man named Mr. Bickle. But the story doesn't end there. The sources detail a chilling follow-up. He kidnapped and locked Mr. Bickle's son, Archie, in a basement for an extended period.
Because Archie witnessed the murder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Luckily, Archie survived, but Harlow is confirmed as the killer of the father and the kidnapper of the son, demonstrating a ruthless commitment to covering his tracks.
Then we have the main antagonist of the game, Ranrock, a goblin revolution. His list of victims is long, highly personal, and tied to his radical anti-wizard idea.
Ranrock is responsible for a significant death early in the game's narrative. Miriam Frug, the wife of Professor Fig. He also murdered a goblin banker, when he entered Gringotts.
An act of violence aimed at the established order within his own community.
And in a devastating act of political and personal betrayal, he murdered his own brother, Lodok, who opposed his radical path.
That's a consistent theme throughout the canon, isn't it? The darkest leaders eventually turn on their own family or closest allies.
It is. Ranrock also has a sort of kill that demonstrates pure malice. He sent a dragon to eat George Orsk in what is described as a wild opening.
So he didn't cast the curse, but the intent and result are unambiguously fatal.
What's truly tragic, though, is the inclusion of Sebastian Sallow on this list. He's a protagonist and ally to the play. His story is a classic Shakespearean fall into darkness.
Defined by desperation.
Absolutely. His desperation to find a cure for his cursed sister, Anne, leads him to embrace increasingly dark magic. And this fall results in 2 confirmed kills. The first and most devastating is his uncle, Solomon Sallow.
Sebastian killed Solomon in cold blood during a confrontation. He genuinely believed he was helping his sister Anne, but the act of murder itself was too much for her to bear.
She turned on him for it, confirming his descent into darkness.
And his second kill.
His second kill demonstrates an incredibly dark, calculated use of magic. Sebastian used dark magic on a goblin who was pursuing Anne.
And forced the goblin to stab himself.
Right. He essentially used dark magic to force the goblin to commit suicide.
That is an act of chilling, calculated depravity. It's not just murder. It's the manipulation of another being's will to ensure their own self-destruction.
It solidifies Sebastian's status as a definitive, albeit tragic, canonical killer. It shows how quickly good intentions can collapse into the vilest use of the dark art.
That journey from good intentions to forced suicide perfectly encapsulates the grim reality of the wizarding world's dark corner. Now, let's return to the names we know so well. Voldemort's army and the specific atrocities that defined the First and Second Wizarding Wars.
As we noted earlier, while we operate under the assumption that every Death Eater has blood on their hands, the canonical records demand solid, specific proof. This section focuses only on the most dedicated offenders with confirmed, named victims.
Let's start with Antonin Dolohov, a formidable killer and one of Voldemort's most capable fighters. He claimed a profoundly tragic victim.
Remus Lupin, killed during the height of the Battle of Hogwarts.
And the sources provide context that just makes it hurt more.
Lupin, a powerful wizard, had been focused on family. He'd been at home raising his son, Teddy, and had hardly been using magic in the months leading up to the battle. He was rusty.
And Dolohov was able to exploit that vulnerability.
It underscores that even skilled heroes can fall when their focus is divided by the responsibilities of life.
Then there's Peter Pettigrew, Wormtail, the Rat, the Betrayer. His canonical blood tally is shockingly high right from the moment he switched sides.
Pettigrew has significant, unforgivable blood on his hand. Early on, when he faked his own death and framed Sirius Black, he killed a staggering 12 Muggles with a single dramatic explosion.
This wasn't just murder, it was theatrical.
It was a theatrical act of self-preservation meant to solidify the lie. Years later, he also murdered Cedric Diggory on Voldemort's explicit orders after helping resurrect the Dark Lord.
Kill the spare.
Peel the spare.
Speaking of shocking betrayals and family horror, we have Barty Crouch Jr. The sheer psychological horror of his crime against his own family is just astounding.
Barty Crouch Jr. murdered his own father, Barty Crouch Sr.
After his father fought off the Imperious Curse and made it to the Hogwarts grounds.
Exactly. Seeking Dumbledore's protection, Barty Jr., disguised as Mad-Eye Moody, killed his father, and then committed an act that defined his chilling, calculated depravity.
He transfigured his father's body.
Yes, he transfigured his father's body into a tiny single bone and buried it outside Hagrid's hut to hide the evidence. The level of cold calculation needed to commit patricide and then treat his father's remains with such profound disregard. It's chilling.
We also have Travers, who committed a terrible family massacre during the First Wizard War.
Travers murdered Order of the Phoenix member Marlene McKinnon, along with her entire family. This type of targeted, total extermination was characteristic of the First War.
Not just eliminating opponents, but completely eradicating their bloodlines to send a message of terror.
Exactly, and Walden McNair, the Ministry executioner who almost executed Buckbeak, is also confirmed as a killer.
He killed Bode.
Right. Bode was in St. Mungo's, recovering after the Death Eaters tried to get the prophet. As he began to recover and came close to speaking the truth, McNair was sent to silence.
And the method was unusually gruesome and specific.
It was. McNair brought Bode Devil's snare, which strangled him to death in his hospital bed. It was a cruel murder weapon used to ensure silence without a traceable curse.
Now let's talk about the most prolific killer among the Death Eaters, known for her sheer cruelty and personal satisfaction in killing, Bellatrix Lestrange.
Bellatrix's list is extensive, tragic, and often deeply personal. She murdered her own cousin, Sirius Black, sending him through the veil. She killed Dobby the house elf with a knife as he helped Harry escape Malfoy Manor.
A shockingly cold, unnecessary act against an innocent creature.
And in perhaps the most cruel act of familial violence, she killed her own niece, Nymphadora Tonk, during the Battle of Hogwarts, leaving the infant Teddy Lupin an orphan.
But the sources also caught a surprising smaller detail that underscores her casual, indiscriminate malice.
She also killed a fox.
A fox?
Yes, on her way to Snape's house, noted in the first chapter of Half.
That detail is absolutely critical. It shows Bellatrix's casual willingness to snuff out any life, even an animal, just for practice or sheer boredom. Murder, for her, was a normalized, everyday experience.
We also have to address the werewolf affiliate, Fenrir Greyback. Not technically a Death Eater with a dark mark, but his violence was utilized and encouraged by Voldemort.
Greyback is purely a predator, and his kills are defined by blood.
The sources confirm he sometimes got carried away when biting people, like the murder of the 5-year-old Montgomery boy, who he killed after biting him. He is also heavily implied to have killed Lavender Brown during the Battle of Hogwarts.
Though that specific kill is unconfirmed in absolute canon.
Right. His entire purpose was to create new, dark creatures for Voldemort's army.
Finally, in this section, we cover a killer who never managed to kill a human successfully, but committed one of the worst murders imaginable, Quirinus Quirrell.
Quirrell, possessed by Voldemort, tried multiple times to kill Harry, but failed. However, he succeeded in killing a unicorn and drinking its blood to keep Voldemort alive. And the sources highlight the profound wickedness of this act.
Why is this considered one of the worst murders you can commit?
Because unicorns are among the purest, most innocent creatures in the wizarding world. The act of slaying one is an atrocity that curses the slayer for life, or a half-life, in Voldemort's case.
And they're incredibly difficult to catch.
Exactly. Which means Quirrell had to employ significant dark arts, or cunning, to achieve the kill, further emphasizing his dark descent.
So we have cataloged the villains, the tragic figures, and the creatures, but our deep dive wouldn't be complete without looking at the aha moments, the surprising truth that even the greatest heroes of the series have blood on their hands.
Right. This section deliberately flips the script. While these actions were justified by defense or strategy or ultimate necessity, they are still confirmed acts of killing.
Let's start with the matriarch herself, Molly. Her one confirmed kill is one of the most celebrated and definitive moments in the entire.
Molly killed Bellatrix Lestrange in a fierce duel in the Great Hall, and the context is absolute. She stepped in to protect her daughter Ginny, who Bellatrix was aiming.
A purely defensive, maternal act of protective rage, and it gave us the iconic, satisfying line, "Not my daughter, you bitch." It was a kill that felt earned and justified by the narrative.
Absolutely. Next, we have Neville Longbottom. His action was perhaps the single most important strategic kill outside of Harry defeating Voldemort himself.
Neville killed Nagini.
He cut her head off with the sword of Gryffindor, which he dramatically pulled from the sorting.
And this wasn't just a kill. It was the final, crucial step to defeating Voldemort.
It was. Nagini contained Voldemort's final hidden Horcrux. Neville, the boy who struggled with basic spells, committed the heroic, strategic act that ensured Voldemort could finally be defeated completely.
Now for the protagonist himself, Harry Potter. He has 3 canonical kills confirmed in the sources.
His first kill was Quirinus Quirrell at the climax of the first book. Harry realized that touching Quirrell, who was possessed by Voldemort, would severely burn him due to Lily's protective magic.
So to stop him from getting the Philosopher's Stone, Harry grabbed his face.
He held on, inflicting third-degree burns so severe that Quirrell's body shut down and he died.
The sources clarify that the book version, severe burns and body shutdown, is a much more painful and immediate act of murder than the film version where he crumbles.
Right, but the result is the same. Harry is the killer. His second kill was the basilisk, which he stabbed with the sword of Gryffindor.
And finally, his third and most famous kill, Lord Voldemort.
Though the mechanics are complex, the Elder Wand refused to kill its rightful master. Harry is considered the ultimate killer in that sequence of events. It was Harry's defeat of Draco, followed by his defeat of Voldemort, that secured his status as the final master.
We also have one very recent canonical outlier that must be included from the stage play, The Cursed Child.
Yes, the sources reluctantly included this one, acknowledging that while the play's quality is debated, its plot points are technically canon.
The character is Delphi Diggory, or Delphi Riddle,
the secret daughter of Voldemort and Bellatrix. She killed a Hogwarts student named Craig Belker during the events involving the Time Turner, confirming a contemporary murder within the school setting outside of the major war.
We've saved the 2 true architects of mass murder for
Grindelwald and Voldemort, examining the specifics of their confirmed kills versus their total body count.
Let's start with Gellert Grindelwald. He is chronologically the first truly global mass murderer in the modern wizarding world. Yet the sources reveal that his list of personally confirmed kills is surprisingly contained.
This really emphasizes his method. He was a commander, an orator, a revolutionary who preferred to inspire or order others to do his killing for him.
So what are his confirmed personal...
He killed Lita Strange on the night of the Parisian rally after she betrayed him. He also famously executed his own follower, Kral,
who he disintegrated when Kral failed to make it through his protective fire. A powerful demonstration of zero tolerance for...
He also has a historical kill tied directly to the pursuit of the Elder Wand. He personally killed Victor Crumb's grandfather.
And he has 2 specific magical creature kills confirmed on screen in Fantastic.
Right. Antonio, a baby chupacabra he murdered and discarded, and another chillin, which he killed by slitting its throat to harvest its blood.
It's important to remember that while he personally killed perhaps only a handful, he was responsible for a global conflict that resulted in thousands of deaths. His personal body count is low, but his culpability is astronomical.
Now we arrive at the undisputed, most vicious, dedicated, and prolific killer in the Harry Potter canon, Tom Marvolo Riddle, Lord Voldemort. His list is extensive, calculated, cold, and spans his entire life.
We have to start with his Horcrux trail, the early murders required to systematically split his soul.
Voldemort's first murders were familial and symbolic. His own father, Tom Riddle Sr., and his grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. Riddle. He killed them in their Muggle home to create his first Horcrux.
And the trail continues with anonymous victims chosen purely for their disposability.
Indeed. He killed an Albanian peasant and a Muggle tramp for subsequent Horcruxes victims chosen because they would never be missed. He murdered Hepzibah Smith to steal her treasures and create more Horcruxes. And he brutally murdered Bertha Jorkins after severe torture, using her death to put a Horcrux into Nagini.
Then came the First Wizarding War and his initial downfall.
During the First War, he killed Order of the Phoenix member Dorcas Meadows, and of course the defining tragedy. He murdered James and Lily Potter, though his attempt on baby Harry backfired.
After his resurrection, the bodies piled up quickly, often targeting authority figures or anyone who stood in his way.
The sources confirm he killed the elderly Muggle Frank Bryce immediately upon his return. He then systematically targeted key members of the magical government, Amelia Bones,
head of the Department of Magical Law,
and Rufus Scrimgeour, the Minister of Magic, killed while searching for Harry. He murdered the Muggle Studies professor Charity Burbage publicly as a warning.
The sources also list several high-profile Order members and those connected to the Elder Wands.
During the Battle of Seven Potters, Voldemort killed Alastor Mad-Eye Moody. While searching for the Elder Wand, he killed Maku Grigorovich, the European wand maker. He murdered Florian Fortescue, the ice cream shop owner.
And the sheer depravity of his use of Bathilda Bagshot is chilling.
It is one of the most disgusting acts in the canon. He murdered the elderly historian and then had Nagini wear her body like a suit to ambush Harry in Godric's Hollow.
It demonstrates a complete disregard for the human body and an utter lack of moralism.
And he even ended the life of his old rival, Grindelwald.
Yes, Voldemort killed Gellert Grindelwald in Nurmengard prison. And crucially, the sources clarify that Grindelwald refused to tell him where the Elder Wand was, proudly defying Voldemort to his death.
This is important because it differs from the film adaptation, where Grindelwald willingly gives up the location. In the books, he
securing his final moral victory. And finally, his technical final victim was Harry Potter himself,
who, of course, returned to life due to the magic of the sacrifice. While we have confirmed kills of over 24 specific individuals and creatures in Voldemort's career, the sources ultimately conclude by acknowledging he probably killed hundreds and maybe even thousands more anonymously, but the list we have confirms his status.
The most vicious and prolific murderer in the canon. That is an astonishing, detailed, and terrifying accounting of canonical death.
What stands out when you synthesize this entire list is the sheer range of victims, from anonymous Muggle sailors and house elves to grandfathers, children, and even fox. The motivations are vast, spanning accidental trauma, primal revenge, strategic duty,
and the pure acquisition of power with the Elder Wand trail. It connects the deep lore killings, like those by Herpo the Foul, directly back to the central conflicts of the main books. We see that murder isn't just restricted to the villain. It's a fundamental part of establishing power, protecting family, and achieving heroic victory. It shows the canonical depth of the world we thought. The line between killer and hero is often only defined by the circle.
The world is far less black and white than a simple children's story suggests. It is defined by the consequences of irreversible choices.
Which leads us to our final thought for you to consider. We detailed how the Elder Wand's history is incredibly bloody, passed through centuries of murder. If the wand carries the moral weight of those murders, does every character who defeated a previous master, even non-lethally, thereby claiming ownership, hold a unique moral responsibility for the wand's entire history of violence?
Something to mull or explore on your own. It raises the question of whether a true hero can ever accept an artifact soaked in so much blood.
Thank you for joining us on this very deep, very dark dive into the canonical killers of the wizarding world. We'll see you next time.